From above, the lower 48 states look like nothing but open space and wilderness. But turn the lights on, take a look at night, and it's obvious that we've been doing a good job populating our land. With a birth every 8 seconds, a death every 12, and a new immigrant every 26 seconds, our population is growing at a rate of 1 person every 11 seconds. As our population grows, the way we develop our built environment becomes more and more critical to our quality of life and the sustainability of our natural environment. Where and what we choose to build, the amount of land we use, and the ways in which we use it take on increasing significance. The focus of this course is to take a look at how our built environment, the buildings and communities we inhabit, has evolved and how it currently impacts the urban watershed, air quality, and climate. In Unit 1, Where We Live, we'll first take a look at past and current U.S. growth patterns and the way our urban areas have evolved from compact population centers to automobile-dependent sprawl. Unit 2, Impacts on the Watershed, explores how the built environment affects the water that moves through an urban watershed. Unit 3, Impacts on the Atmosphere, highlights the way our urban landscape and industrial activities impact the air we breathe and the local climate. Each unit includes information you can pass on to your viewers on ways to reduce our impact on our water and air. Before we take a look at how our built environment has evolved, let's look at current growth patterns in the U.S. What are our current growth rates? Where have we traditionally set up our homes and businesses? Where has man's built environment had the greatest impact on the natural environment? The U.S. population is growing and changing rapidly. Our population has grown by leaps and bounds over the last century, from 76 million in the year 1900 to over 282 million in the year 2000. In 2006, we passed the 300 million mark, and we're on our way to 400 million by 2040. That's unprecedented growth. Currently, 83% of us live in urban or metropolitan settings. Urban populations, too, are soaring. Among metro areas of 1 million plus residents, 6 grew by more than 30% in the 1990s, 16 grew by more than 20%, and 31 grew by more than 10%. So where is most new development happening? Are we filling up the last of our open spaces and farmlands? In the lower 48 states, many of our metropolitan areas are located along our roughly 12,000 miles of coastline, including the Great Lakes. About 50% of our population lives within 50 miles of a seacoast. Many of these areas are vulnerable to severe weather events, like tropical storms and hurricanes. And if climate change produces higher sea levels, the risk to coastal dwellers will only increase. There are, of course, large inland metropolitan areas as well. Many of these areas are also growing quickly and face their own challenges. Phoenix and Las Vegas, for instance, are two of the fastest-growing cities in the U.S. Both are in arid locations, where future water supplies are a concern. Scientists studying climate change predict that many regions of the Southwest will be subject to more frequent and more intense drought. An increasing population isn't the only concern. Equally worrisome are the development patterns that come with it. Nationally, we're consuming land at twice the rate of population growth, but many places continue to sprawl despite little or no population growth. For instance, between 1950 and 1990, Pittsburgh's urbanized area grew 21 times faster than its population. It has been 400 years since Europeans began settling the continent, yet a third of all developed land has been built on in just the last 25 years. Since World War II, development has consumed more and more land as nearly everything has gotten bigger. Houses, yards, grocery stores, big box malls, and parking lots. In 1920, the average density of all developed areas was nearly 10 people per acre. By the year 2000, that had dropped to 3.75 people per acre. This inefficient land use is taking its toll through habitat fragmentation, loss of farmland, and degradation of our water resources. Our increased dependence on automobiles and highways, and an increase in the amount of energy used to heat and cool our large homes, lead to emissions of greenhouse gases and contribute both to microclimate alterations locally and climate change globally. Spreading buildings and pavement over large areas also can exacerbate what is known as the urban heat island effect, a local rise in temperature and air pollution in heavily built cities. So how has growth and development impacted our lives? Where are we heading in terms of our quality of life and vulnerabilities to weather events? Anyone who flies across the country, looks out the window, and notes the vast stretches of farm and undeveloped land interspersed by tiny towns and cities could be misled to think there is more than enough land for development, farming, and natural habitat. The trouble is, most of the best spots have been found and developed. Population settles where there's a water supply, fertile land, negotiable terrain, and tolerable climate. The country's most productive farmland tends to be just outside of metro areas, and as such, it is at risk of being gobbled up for development. Much wildlife, too, is concentrated in these zones. We still have a lot of wildlands in the United States to enjoy, but it will take a concerted effort to protect the places that are most suited to sustain life, including ours. Fortunately, as we'll learn later in this course, we now understand a lot more about how to grow in ways that benefit both people and the natural environment, and many communities are acting on this information. Let's take a look at how urban growth patterns evolved in the United States starting in the late 1800s. The rapid industrialization of the 19th century, the steam age, led to the building of factories in many cities. Train lines were built to feed the factories with raw materials. The trains also brought people from the countryside to work in those factories. Life near the factories was not very pleasant. Pollution, noise, and crowding were the norm. For the more well-to-do, the steam locomotive provided an escape and created the first set of commuters. Trains permitted the development of commuter suburbs. Villages like Brookline, Massachusetts, and Bronxville in Westchester County, New York, were built to serve affluent citizens, escaping the pollution and crowding of the industrial city. By 1920, Grand Central Station in New York was handling 680 commuter trains per week. The phenomenon we know as suburbanization, the expansion of a city through the development of surrounding bedroom communities, became truly possible with the advent of the streetcar, the first light rail commuting platform. The earliest version of the streetcar was the cable car, which appeared in the 1880s and unleashed suburban development in Chicago, San Francisco, and Philadelphia. The cars were moved by a continuously circulating cable, an energy-intensive method that was quickly replaced by the electric streetcar. Frank Julian Sprague developed the first electric trolley system in Richmond, Virginia, in the late 1880s. By 1893, there were more than 250 electric railways in the U.S. Compared to the horse and carriage, folks could now zip between home and work. Streetcars could hit speeds of up to 20 miles per hour. Development changed, too. Department stores began to locate at the intersections of trolley routes, where suburb and city dwellers alike could reach them. Along trolley lines' outer reaches, suburban enclaves popped up, with homes tailored to the middle class. Atlanta's Inman Park, for example, was that city's first streetcar suburb, just 3 miles from downtown.